So as it says on your on the cover of your prayer book, or of your neighbor's prayer book, regarding, this is Shabbat Shuvah. Shabbat Shuvah. Shuvah means return. This is the Shabbat of return. We are celebrating the Shabbat that is between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And it has a name. There are few Shabbats over the whole course of the year that actually have a special name, and this is one of them. Shabbat of return. It is a Shabbat that calls us to continue the work we started on Rosh Hashanah and leading towards Yom Kippur. And our work is to continue this process of inwardness, of returning to the source of our being. There are 9 other Shabbats that have a name around the year. Most of them are connected to Purim and Passover, so they happen mostly in the early spring and the spring. The first one, I have them written down here. So I know you were going to ask me, what are they? Right? Exactly. So the first one, actually, since this is the first Shabbat of the year, this would be the first one. I'll come back to that later. The one after that only starts in the month of Adar. It's the Shabbat, it's called Shabbat Shekalim, from the word shekel, the currency in Israel. And it is connected to the Torah portion where there's a census. In the book of Exodus, there's a census of how many of us are actually going to wander through the desert. And the way the census is taken is that everybody brings half a shekel to the temple. This was their major annual fundraiser. When you have 3 million people traveling with you and everybody brings a half a shekel, you're set for the rest of the year. You can really build a nice, ark and tabernacle and all of that. So this is the Shabbat Shekalim. It's the month that begins and that has Purim in the middle of it. The Shabbat before Purim is called Shabbat Zachor. Zachor means to remember, and we remember Amalek, we remember all the bad guys, of the Jewish story, and specifically Amalek, who turns into Haman. There you go, somebody's born. For the story of Purim. So that's Shabbat Zachor, just the Shabbat before Purim. Now the Shabbat after Purim, also following the Torah portion, is Shabbat Para, which means the Shabbat of the cow. It is not about any cow, it's about the red heifer, because it's the symbol of purification. So right before you enter into Passover, this is the Shabbat of purification. And there's the Shabbat HaChodesh, the Shabbat of the month, and that's the month of Nisan, the month of Passover. And that is the Shabbat that marks a new year. So there are different new years in the Jewish tradition. Rosh Hashanah is the biblical new year. The first of Nisan, which is the Shabbat of Nisan, which starts the month of Nisan when Passover is the first of the year on the agricultural cycle. Right? So spring starts, and that's the first of the year. Where am I? Here. The fifth one is Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat. That's the Shabbat right before Passover. And that's our invitation to make sure your house is kosher for Passover. So that's the time you spend spring cleaning. Oh, then there is the Shabbat Shirah, again connected to the Torah portion. I love when it happens like that. This is the Torah portion. Shabbat Shirah is the song. Shirah means the song. It's the song at the sea. When the ladies hit the timbrels, that's the song of the sea. Usually we have those songs on that Shabbat. Then we have Shabbat Chazon. So now we're moving into the summertime. There's 2 Shabbats connected to the 9th of Av. The 9th of the month of Av is one of the darkest days in Jewish history. It's the day that saw the destruction of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BCE. And it was the day, and we believe it was done on purpose, that the Romans decided to destroy the second temple as well on that very day, because they knew historically that would be even more hurtful to us. So those are days of deep mourning. So the Shabbat before the 9th of Av is the Shabbat Chazon. Chazon means vision. And we read the vision of Ezekiel, who foresees the destruction of the temple. And then on the back end of that, Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat after the 9th of Av. Nachamu means to console, to heal. So it's the Shabbat of to console us from the destruction, from the day of mourning. And here we are, Shabbat Shuvah. It's the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And on this Shabbat, we read from passages of the book of Micah. And that's some of the passages that inspired the ritual of Tashlich that we did on Monday afternoon. It says, "You will take us back in love, and you will dissolve our iniquities, and you will cast off our sins in the depths of the sea." So the injunction on this Shabbat is, you will take us back in love. Like this is the time that you need to take yourself back in love. I think the first of the High Holiday workshops, I was challenging those who had come to change the voice within, the self-talk, and see if we could practice standing in front of the mirror and say to ourselves, "I love you." And what I got was a lot of laughter. I mean, we're so uncomfortable with that even that idea that I would stand in front of the mirror, look at myself and say, "I love you." When we're so good at actually telling ourselves, "I hate you. How stupid are you? What a clumsy person you are." I mean, we are happy and it's easy for us to say these things to ourselves. But it's uncomfortable to sit in front of the mirror and tell ourselves how much we love ourselves. "I love you. I love you for the beautiful things you do also in the world. You will take us back in love, so take yourself back in love. You will dissolve our iniquities. Forgive yourself." This is what it means, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. "You will cast off our sins into the depths of the sea." This is not about, I'm going to throw it away. It's like when we take a piece of something and I'm going to throw it away. And we have this in our mind that it disappears. I'm putting it in the garbage, I'm going to throw this away. And in our mind, it's gone. Well, think again, nothing is ever away. There is no away. Whatever you throw away ends up somewhere else. There's no magic wand garbage collector that poofs the garbage out of existence. There is no away. So the sense of casting our sins into the depth of water is not the magical wand that makes anything wrong we've ever done just disappears out of the blue. If that's the way you are thinking about it, then all you're doing is denial. And at some point it'll catch up with you, because there is no away. What the rabbis are teaching us is that the casting of our sins is a surrender of the hold that our sins have over us. And from that surrender of that hold, not to deny, but just to surrender their hold on us, then we can be transformed. And we can be transformed. We can learn from our mistakes. We can transcend. But it takes our surrendering their hold on our hearts and on ourselves.